Heroines of Jazz returns yet again on the 27th of April to honor the incredible women of jazz with a spectacular event that celebrates their musical achievements. And so through a combination of live performances, poetry and art, the event really aims to pay tribute to these unsung heroes and heroines, of course, who bring their stories to light. And so taking place at the Shades of Summer Boutique Hotel in Centurion, and joining us in studio this morning to perhaps share a little bit more on this offering, we are joined by co-founder MarumoFemme Mmamelo Pule, as well as a co-founder and poet MoAfrika wa Mokgathi. Good morning to the both of you, and thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I mean, we know the history of jazz in South Africa in relation to our liberation. And so perhaps as we're looking 31 years later into our democracy, the impact that it's had, tell us about the movement that this has now created.
So, I mean, we know that, as you had mentioned, that jazz has a significant historical, meaning, especially in our country, in South Africa. And with this event, especially the Heroines of Jazz, we are especially celebrating that on the 27th of April, which is Freedom Day. And we know that it's still relevant, the consciousness, the movement in relation to, resilience and creativity and freedom as well. So it's still relevant, and that's what we are trying to put out there in terms of the significance of, the genre as a culture, as a community, into what's happening in South Africa right now.
Yes, and also our contribution to the world stage, right? That's how we complete the story.
Yep.
We're looking at last year, perhaps how it's grown. So tell us, how it differs from last year. If we're looking at the lineup as well, how's that going to be reflected?
This year, we are excited to be also bringing voices of our male counterparts who are also, collaborating with women, like the likes of Ipupolga Biko on the lineup. So it's also going with the thread of conscientizing the people through music, through the arts. And we have Gabi Mutuba, we have Sia Makuzeni. I mean, they're very conscious people in terms of their work, their songwriting, evoking the spirit of wanting to know where we are going and reflecting on where we're coming from, and having voice as an instrument, dominating this installment. It is quite exciting. So
I mean, the title itself, Heroines of Jazz, this is an important feat, right? It's perhaps also about inclusivity and agency and representation. Perhaps when we look at the social constructs around us, tell us about that intention and then really what's going to be celebrated.
So, I mean, we know historically women have always been marginalized and undermined. And I think we believe that, especially when it comes to the creative side of things, women should be dominating these spaces, but because of, the historical and differences that have been happening, I mean, all over the world, basically the women have been, on the back or on the back end, or, so what we want to do is highlight and put these women on a platform whereby we say, these women are great, they are doing great work out there, and, a significant impact. And it's not just limited to musicians, we have poets like MoAfrika Mokgathi who also be on the lineup, and we have journalists, we have photographers, women who have, played a significant role within the jazz landscape itself, and those are the kind of women that we want to put out there, and even their work and their excellency, and we say, you know what, it's time for us as women to come out there and, show that inclusivity within, the landscape itself.
What does jazz come to mean for both of you at this point? I mean, if we are going to speak about evolution and change, perhaps what's next? What can we envision from year two? Are you hopeful?
I'm very hopeful. We find young people who are coming up with movements like Kids Love Jazz.
Yes.
So for me, it's exciting. And jazz has always been for young people who want to express themselves, who wants to look nice, because of also we are collaborating with fashion designers because of it is a lifestyle. So I'm very hopeful. We're seeing, young cats who are interested not only in the playing, but also in the quest of understanding jazz from an academic point of view. The very two ladies, Gabi and Sia, who are scholars within the space, so it's quite exciting what we can what we can curate. You know, we have so much to choose from, and it's exciting.
Yes, it's also part of our healing story.
Of course,
right?
of course,
It's a part of our DNA as well.
Of course.
What remains the biggest challenges in the space then? Perhaps if we're looking at what it's evolved into, even just support from leadership at large.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is also just this misconception that jazz is for old people. I mean, I think every time we go out and play and put jazz out there, and they'll be like, what are you guys doing as young people, you know, in the jazz space? So just to reprogram, you know, what people think about jazz, and that jazz is like a boring, you know, genre. And I think because it's sort of, people want to put it into a niche sort of target, and we believe that jazz should be for everyone. So I think the incorporating everyone within the space, not just mainstream music in the platform, but incorporating jazz as part of the mainstream of South Africa is one of the biggest challenges, I think. So I think if you can work on that, which is what, you know, this movement is about as well, to say, look, let's all have a jazz festival and let it not be dependent on other mainstream like genres for it to be a successful festival. So yeah, that's mainly that.
But we are more than just Sunday, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so any other day, you can listen to jazz any other day, not only on Sundays, but yeah.
As I said, it's a part of our DNA, right?
Absolutely.
So every day is Jazz Day. But if we're just looking at your personal inspirations, perhaps as we wrap up, who would have played the biggest role in hearing that sound, that ear, perhaps even being part of that conversation starter for you growing up?
Ooh. That's a tough one, but I think from the, you know, MarumoFemme's perspective, mainly our dad was our biggest influence. He was a jazz scholar, he was an artist as well, played the clarinet, and you know, because we grew up with the sound, and for us it's natural, it's already coming out naturally. And I think mainly on the, you know, when you're looking at other global figures like Mamire Makeba, Linda Kekana, Dorothy Masuku, Esperanza Spalding, I mean, the list goes on. And these are the kind of women that we used to listen to growing up and, you know, aspired to be like, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of them, and these are the kind of women that we're also going to be paying tribute and ode to, you know, at this event.
All right, I'll have to leave the conversation there. Thank you. I know it continues, of course, when this event takes place in Centurion. So this morning, co-founders MarumoFemme Mmamelo Pule as well as MoAfrika Mokgathi joining us. They're chatting all things Heroines of Jazz live event, of course, a celebration of jazz, freedom and women.